Hello and welcome to this week's track guide. This week we are in Great Britain on the Silverstone circuit, very historic circuit for F1 here. First of all, some quick facts. We have 18 turns, 2 DRS zones, one on the Wellington Straight and the second one on the Hanger Straight. The circuit is about 5.9 kilometers long. Obviously we are in Great Britain, so you can expect a bit of rain showers coming along the race weekend. We have the C3, C2, C1 tire, C3 being the soft tire, C1 being the hard tire. So the most durable Pirelli tires that we have on offer. So it's an easy one stop from the soft onto the mediums or from the mediums onto the softs. We have also 26 laps, so you would want to pit around lap 12 for the soft to medium, and for the medium to soft around lap 14, 15 or 16. You know the drill. First of all, I'm going to show you the hot lap, then I'm going to talk about the nuances of the track. After that, I'm going to show you my time trial setup with suggestions what to change for the race.
That last lap was a 1 minute 24.9.
Let's start talking about the lap right now. So what you want to do before you even start your lap is you want to have a philosophy of you want as much space between you and the finish line on the start of your lap. So what you want to do in the Vale chicane is after the first part, you want to place the car on the left hand side right here. What that does is give you a more sweeping line through the second part, gives you a bit more speed down the Hamilton Straight, Abbey Farm, and up to turn 3 basically. Just keep that in mind. It may save you or like may gain you a couple of hundreds. So try to do that when you're starting your hot lap. Then now let's start talking about the actual hot lap right now, coming out of club onto the Hamilton Straight. Abbey pretty much flat corner, no real difficulties there. You want to start turning in before you come to the 50-meter board. Then cut as much of Abbey as you can. You can put the right hand side wheel on those red sausage curb thingies. Then also keep your steering as minimalistic as possible because you don't want to have too much drag because of the steering. So minimize drag so get more speed coming through Abbey and Farm. Then for Farm, stay close to the left. You can take a bit of this curb right here. Then turn 3. Very cool corner in my opinion. Start braking when the curb on the left hand side starts. You can also get on the curb to give you a bit more of a better racing line through here. Then rapidly downshifting down to second gear. You want to have a mid to late apex in this corner. Why? Because you want to set up the loop that is following this corner right here. Taking a late apex right here, very close to the sausage curb. Actually, don't clip it. You kind of glide through the corner because of the uphill part before the apex and then the downhill part. Then as you're past the apex up to fourth gear, try to get your car as soon as possible to the right hand side of the road, because you want to, again, just like the last chicane, you want to have the car as straight as possible as soon as possible, so you can build up that speed, especially on the straight that's following the hangar straight, if I'm correct. If I'm not correct, then I'm sorry. So again, down to second gear, very important. The brake marker is, at least for my FOV, is when that curb on the inside starts hitting the uh, left hand end of my screen. I basically start to brake. Don't press the brakes too hard. Either you're going to lock up, or if you're using ABS, you're going to understeer quite a bit. As soon as you're braking, you want to turn in, get as close as possible to the inside right here, because the inside is a dip and it's a tiny bit on cambered, I believe. So staying on the inside gives you a bit more grip. Again, just like turn 3, get as close to that red sausage curb on the inside. Then, very important, as you're coming uphill here, not to uh, apply the throttle too much too early. You want to apply a lot of throttle when you're like straightening out your steering. You can basically go flat around here, though I did when I was a bit too eager on the throttle too early. You can use this green astroturf as a bit of space, so that you can actually go on the throttle a tiny bit earlier. Then turn 5, I believe, is also completely flat, then opening up the DRS, and that's sector 1 done. Then starting sector 2, coming into Brooklands, you want to place your car on this black and white curb to give you a bit more of a better entry angle. As soon as you pass the 50-meter board, you want to start turning in, then you want to start braking just a tiny bit after. Really important that you try brake into this corner. Don't hold the brakes for too long, as you're going to understeer if you're using ABS, or you're going to essentially lock up. Then coming slowly off the brakes, downshifting very rapidly. You want to stay on the inside right here. Again, it's a bit on cambered. You can cut a lot of this curb on Brooklands. Just try and see what the limit is. You can probably put the right hand side wheel on this black and white curb without invalidating, actually. Then, as we're coming to Luffield, very dangerous part, this kind of connecting part, is right here between Brooklands and Luffield. It's very easy to lose your rear right here, because it's changing from an on camber to off camber, then again on camber part, basically. Luffield, then, on the inside, very on camber for your car. You want to go for a double apex, so a early apex right here. Then you want to just let the car drift out a tiny bit wide. What that does is you can use a bit more space to get your car straight, get your car rotated, and essentially beat up the speed up until cops. Then, as we are rotating the car with two upshifts, I believe, from second to fourth. Yes, I'm correct. And then you can go on the throttle very early in this year's car. In last year's car, you were really struggling out of Luffield, which I don't find very difficult this game. Then, as you are having your car straight around here, you can actually already go full throttle. You may need to expect a tiny bit of oversteer when you're going to that curb, but obviously use all of the track as well on the outside of Luffield. It's always a good idea to get your car straight as possible and floor as soon as possible if you've got a bit of a runoff area which you can use. Then in Woodcut, cut as much as you can. Place your left hand side wheel on the white line. Don't cross it. Otherwise, you get a warning or a penalty in the rear race. Then coming to cops, very weird corner this year. After just before the 50-meter board, actually, you want to start turning in with the time trial setup. The rear is very rear happy, and in cops. So what you want to do for the setup later, I'm going to talk you through, especially to make it really, really stable for cops. Then you want to really start turning in earlier than you might think. That's why we turn in before the 50-meter board, and you can, or you should clip this inside curb, because then the car is straighter as sooner as if you were going to take the normal racing line. You can basically let the car drift out to that black and white curb on the outside right here. Um, don't ride it too much though; it unsettles the car quite a lot, and with different suspension settings, you're actually going to spin on that curb. Then, two very very famous corner combination: Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel at the end. Very high speed corner section. The first part of Maggots Packets is quite flat. Then here already also still flat. Cut as much of that curb as possible, but be aware that if you clip the red sausage curbs on the inside in a certain way, as we're going to see in a second, you're going to experience a bit of oversteer, like your car is going to be very on edge. I used this like not condition, the state of the car being very on edge to my advantage. So what I did is very fast steering movement to the left. What you want to keep in mind is when you put a lot of steering in very rapidly in Maggots Beckets, that's what's going to save you a lot of time. Obviously, if you put in too much, you're going to understeer. So you would need to find out yourself what works and what doesn't work. Then you can also cut as much as possible right here. It helps you set up the last part of Maggots and Beckets. And yeah, again, very rapid steering movement, as you can see here, down to 5th gear. Then, as we're coming to the apex, keep it in 5th gear, then 6th gear on the exit. It's a very, very difficult corner combination, this. You want to just throw the car around, see what sticks. If your car is understeering quite a lot, maybe add a bit of a rear ARB, or maybe even lower the differential. I would rather lower the differential for this corner section to get a bit more turning. Then onto the hanger straight. I was wrong about the first DRS straight. That's Wellington straight. My bad. Then down the hanger straight, coming to Stowe and starting sector 3, which is quite short. Stowe, you want to start turning in before you actually want to brake. Start turning in as soon as you come to that black and white curb. Then also in this corner, very different to how it was taken last year. You don't want to apply too much brake, otherwise you're going to understeer quite a lot, which is quite weird in my opinion. Um, so try to about halfway, 65% brake application. Then as soon as you are almost at the mid of the apex, you want to start applying the throttle again. Go as wide as you can on this part right here to generate more speed. Then coming to the last chicane. As soon as the curb on the right hand side starts, immediately brake. Then turn in very, very early for this part and try to set up your car for the second part of Vale. You can see that I, for the second part of Vale, kind of pushed the car into oversteering for the second part. You can see here my throttle application is quite high. Then, as I get to the apex, I don't want to overshoot the corner, but I also don't want to understeer quite a lot. So just go off the throttle, a tiny lift. Then, as soon as you pass this red sausage curb, onto the throttle again, through club and onto the Hamilton straight, and don't apply too much steering angle. You want to minimize the drag again, just like turn 1 later or earlier. And yeah, that is basically a lap around Silverstone. Talking about the setup, so this is strictly a time trial setup. I'm going to suggest some changes to make it viable for the race. So front wing, rear wing aero is a bit high. You would want to reduce that to maybe 6.6, 5.6, probably works. Um, you don't really need the rear aero here, in my opinion. If you have a really, really stable car, that is, which I'm going to talk you through when we're going to the suspension. Transmission, 8053, you might want to reduce the on-throttle differential for maggots and Beckett's, maybe even for cops. If you make your if you make your setup a bit more understeery, then suspension geometry, front camber minus 2.5, minus 20, then 008 front toe and 020 rear toe. So right, left, 3 or 4 clicks to the right, and then again full left. Yeah, the rear camber gives you really, really good stability through some corners. If you want to have a bit more of an oversteery car, I suggest putting the rear camber a couple of clicks to the right. Suspension is 741426. The suspension feels pretty good in my opinion. Could be a bit softer for the race than the anti-roll bar. You want to maybe reduce the rear anti-roll bar by 1 or 2 clicks, and yeah, make it a bit more understeery for the race, but a lot safer through cops than brakes. Obviously, 156. You can also go down to go up to 57% to get a bit more turning. And front tire pressures are 23 psi and rears are 23.1. You need to up the front tire pressures for the race, but you can also put the rear tire pressures full to the right for the race to give you a bit more tire wear, or like a bit more efficient tire wear. And that is basically the setup. I hope you enjoyed the track guide and that you have learned something. I'm Fraser, and I hope we will see each other on the racetrack.